written in Rust, and we want to compile it and then transfer the binary executable to another machine, which demonstrate what the code does. If I do it, I'm just going to clear the database. So this is an embedded database. It's inside the, or it will be inside the Rust binary executable. And what it does is it inserts 3 records and then lists them. So what I want to do is connect to another machine, and then I want to copy the binary executable to my other Linux machine and then just see if it runs. So let's go to target debug, and I want to it's about 400 meg. Okay, let's SSH onto that machine. And there it is, we see Surreal test. Let's just try and run it. And we should notice it tries to, or it will create a new database. And it's worked. Well, hey. So if we just look at the size of the file, that's 421 megabytes. The data is negligible, obviously. So that shows how you can create a database within or embedded a Surreal database using RocksDB embedded within your Rust code, and then you can run it on another machine. So obviously the reason why it's run on this other machine is because it's running similar version of, or I think it's the identical version of Linux Mint 22.04. So if I'd had to run it on another machine, I would needed to have just done git clone and then cargo run to build it. And then I would have had the binary executable. So even if I transferred it onto a Windows PC or a Mac or whatever, then I would be able to download it, the source code, compile it, and run it. And I didn't install a database. So if you now see, this has been created, DB. So if we do cd into DB, and you've got these files which you don't want to be messing with, but they store the database information. Exit that, clear, and go back, we'll look at the code. So we've used colorize, SurrealDB, deserialize, SurrealDB engine local DB, so that tells it that we're going to be doing an embedded one. RocksDB to specify that we want to use the RocksDB. Surreal, so thing, don't know if I've used that. I don't think I have. I've done allow unused, so that's, otherwise it would be grayed out. I'm going to use that next with my next bit of code on here. So struct for the magazine, name, price, day, month, year. So that's like when it was published and the price it cost to buy. This is going to be a database of magazines, and then hopefully I'll get time and I'll list them on eBay and sell them, because they are taking up, I've got few boxes of car magazines, and they're taking up a lot of space. So inside main, we're basically specifying the path to the current directory, or rather, standard env, the current directory. So if it's not specified, we just create the path in the current directory. Because we run this from src directory, then they will get created in src. So db path is our variable name, and then we just pass that in. So we say create a new SurrealDB using RocksDB as the storage at this path. Then we use await because we don't know how long it's going to take. And then we bubble up the error back up to here if there is an error. Oh, sorry. So it's the result. We send if there's an error, then we handle the result either as OK or well as error, as the error part of the result enum. DB use ns, so we're specifying the namespace and the database. I will get out of the habit of using test and test everywhere. I think I'll be getting to that stage soon, but for experimenting, it's very convenient just to keep using test and test. Don't have to remember to look up any credentials. Response. So the response equals SurrealDB.query, then the query, and then .await. You can get into a muddle, or I got into a muddle trying to pass response, and ultimately I realized that you don't have to, because otherwise you've got response with an array of arrays, and inside the array of arrays you've got an object, it contains another object. It's very nested, and you don't really want to be doing that, so I'll get to that in a second. Define index magazine ID on the table. It's a table's called product because I may well list other things other than magazines. Yeah, I'd need to create a new struct if I'm listing something other than magazines, obviously, because if I'm listing a keyboard, for instance, it's probably got not really relevant what day, month, and year it is, whereas if it's a magazine, then those are relevant. Columns, the name, month, and year. So the name, month, and the year form a unique index, or the index. I'm just calling mag ID. As always, wait, question mark. These are my 3 instances of this struct, which I'm passing in. And then I'm calling these functions, which is list all and list star. They kind of overlap at the moment, but they will take on their own characteristics in due course. So add, we create a function called add_to, and we're specifying the database, the DB, which is, if you remember up here, the DB is, we're specifying the RocksDB and the path. So we're saying, and also then DB also has the namespace and the database name. So you've got database name, namespace, and so all of this information is being used further down here in each of our functions. So each function needs to know what database it's using namespace and RocksDB backend data. So data is our vector of magazine structs. The result is a SurrealDB result. So at the end, we do need to just do OK. If we get OK, then we get a successful result of result OK, which is good. And everything works. If not, then we get an error like this, could not add entry. At the moment, I'm getting that error because I'm not clearing the database. And then when I go to add the data, or when I go to test it again, because the backend database is giving me some storage or some persistence, then I'm getting a duplicate error, because when I try to add Autosport January the 1st, 1990, and I've already added it, then obviously it's not unique. Query, so create product. So I'm not specifying the ID. SurrealDB creates a unique ID. So the combination of the table name :ID is called a thing. So then we set, and then when the name is going to be the name, price is price, day is day, day. So, and we're just doing bindings here. And you can chain bindings together. I got into a model with this when I first started, but it seems to work okay. Magazine. So the magazine is actually here. So whatever you call, for instance, if you said for I in data, then it'd be I name, I price, I day, and so on. Get the idea. So to list everything, once we've added the 3 magazines, we want to list all. And first, same connection details as before, we pass in the DB variable, and same again, we return a SurrealDB result. And with the entries, again, it's basically the database.query.bind.await with the Surreal QL inside the query. I'm doing some fancy printing here, so I'm saying leave a space of 12 characters. So you can see that's all been used there. Down here, that one's slightly different because there's a full stop there. That's saying for the price, only have 2 decimal places. The reason for that is because for the price, it's using an F32. And if I didn't do .2 here for the price, I would end up with a very long float. So rather than 1.80 for the magazine price, I was getting 1.7999999999.876 or something like that. I'm just making the name yellow. In fact, it doesn't look that color when it prints, but maybe that's just my terminal. Well, I'm using console in Linux Mint if you're interested. So then I'm just doing list star. So that's actually will eventually be the select all, and this one will probably become customized a bit more. So I will, as well as order by, I will add other stuff. Oh, I also want to be picking out the ID because I need to see the ID so that I can kind of maybe delete or update using that ID. Thinking about it, I'm not sure if that's a good idea because at least you can use the ID for kind of visual comparison, but I'm not sure if you want to be typing in the ID but to do any operations. So if I want to delete a magazine, I probably will end up doing a delete function where I delete the magazine based on the name, month, and the year, because that's the whole point. It will be unique because I don't think for this purposes I've never bought the same magazine. I'd never bought 2 copies of the same magazine, so it will only ever be in once. So that's kind of a roundup. I'll put the code on, or the code is on GitHub. I'll put a link in the video description. And next, I should think I would need to actually read or add another struct, which will be struct record. And then I'll be doing a find on the record, because that's if I try and put the ID in here, it'll be expecting me to supply the ID when I create the record, i.e. when I add the magazines. And I don't want to be supplying the ID because that's the whole beauty of using Surreal to do it, because then you get the nice, good, unique ID. So I'm probably getting slightly confused between index here. So at the moment, my index is name, month, year. And if I create a new struct with ID, or a new struct called record with ID as a thing, then I may actually start using thing. What I really wanted to get my head around here was how I could, so let's go to list all, how I could list multiple records, or all of the records, without having to use content, or without having to pass the response object. So here I am only using I'm using the response, but we can pass the response using take, and then index 0. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back with some progress soon.